Well, today we have Greg Droman in the studio with us. Thanks so much for being here, Greg.
Thanks for having me, Tony.
Well, we've known each other for a number of years now, Greg. You know, one of my favorite memories in Nashville was when I was playing for an artist that you were working with, and I had the great privilege of playing some guitar on some of the sessions you were producing. And you know, that was such a treat to see how talented you are and to be able to work with you.
You know what, that was fun for me too. It was great to work with all you guys fresh out of college, and I was so impressed with your playing, and I still am, so thank you.
Well, that was a blast. Seriously though, Greg, I've been in this town long enough to know that #1 hits are hard to come by, and you've got your name by one right now. Every Storm Runs Out of Rain by Allan was produced by you. So maybe you could start by just telling us a little about how that song came around and how you picked it, and give us a behind the scenes look into how it was produced.
I can, yeah. Gary came to me. I've done 9 albums with Gary so far, and he came to me on this last record and asked if I'd cut 4 or 5 tracks with his band and also some session musicians. And he had brought this song into me, Every Storm, that he wrote with 2 other writers, Hillary Lindsay, who's a famous writer in town, and Matt Warren, who's also a great writer and a friend of Gary's. And the story goes that Matt was sort of down on his luck a little bit. He wasn't having much success writing songs, and he was mowing lawns, and it was a particularly hot day, and he was really miserable, and he was sweating and getting bitten by bees and stung by bees and getting bitten while he was mowing. And rather than get down and out about it, this line just appeared in his head that every storm runs out of rain. You know, it was just his sort of way of dealing with the situation and knowing that, you know, things were just going to get better. So they wrote it as a song, Every Storm Runs Out of Rain, and they actually demoed it on a piano at Gary's house. And Gary brought that demo to me, as well as other songs we were considering cutting. And I heard the song, and it was sort of a no-brainer. I mean, we really liked it. I mean, and it's not, you know, like some people think we just thought immediately it was a #1 hit, and that wasn't the case at all. We just thought it was a cool song, and yeah, let's do it. Let's do it. But we didn't put any kind of pressure on it, like it was going to be huge or anything. So one of the first things that came to my mind when I heard it as a piano demo was to sort of replace the whole keyboard feel of it, which is what they wrote it to. And you know, sometimes you can just translate that right into the studio and cut it like that. But my thought was, you know, what if we came up with sort of a kind of a signature guitar part, kind of like The Edge would do from U2, maybe some delays, just a simple sort of repeating kind of line. And so we just sort of ran that idea by Gary's guitar player, David Steele. And he just told me recently that it was that morning, the morning of the session, that he was just playing around and came up with that lick that started the whole song. And then the whole track got to build around that sound rather than, you know, being a keyboard-based track.
Wow, that's great to hear that from your perspective. And that lick that we were playing at the beginning of this interview was a lick that was written by you and performed by you on the record. So maybe you could tell us a little bit about that Rickenbacker you've got in your hands, and then also kind of how you came about writing that riff.
I love this guitar. Ever since I was a kid, I liked Rickenbacker 12 strings. They were the sound of the early Byrds records and some Tom Petty and The Who. A lot of people used them back then. You don't hear them a lot these days, but I finally got an opportunity to get one. And when we were after we had recorded all the parts on this song, and it was pretty much almost finished, there was one day when I kind of was thinking, boy, I wish I had something towards the end of the song to help it build somewhat. So I pulled out this 12 string, plugged it in, and there was a line in the bass part that made me think, well, maybe I'll sort of follow that for a little bit, and then from there it just became an arpeggio that sort of follows the chords in the song. So nothing real fancy, but it just sort of gives it a lift at the end.
Well, it's a great riff. Well done. A lot of people subscribing to our website are aspiring guitarists, and if you had to give one piece of advice to people in that position who may one day want to work in the music business and play guitar for a living, what would you say?
Well, you know what, when I was growing up, the big deal was to sort of try to be a guitar player hero, like, because we grew up with some heroes like Eric Clapton and Jeff Beck and Jimmy Page and all these guys. But nowadays, you know, things have changed a lot. The role of guitar has changed somewhat. And I mean, there still are, you know, virtuoso players. And if that's your thing, that's great. But the one thing that I wish I had pursued and that I would suggest to anybody is learn how to write songs. You know, try to put those 3 or 4 chords together, even if it's that simple even, and get into that part of it and use your guitar playing to further a writing career, because it opens up a lot of more avenues, I think. You know, you can certainly still be a guitar player, but if you can get your name on some writing credits and, you know, partner up with some people and learn how to write, even if you're just the, you know, the person that contributes the instrumental part of it, I would say that that's a great way to go.
Well, that's great advice, Greg, and I couldn't agree more. I know how busy you are, and we really appreciate you coming down to the studio today and spending some time with us.
Tony, always a pleasure to see you, and good luck with your business. It's a great idea, and I wish you all the best. Take care.
Thanks, Greg. And thank you for tuning into this exclusive interview with SixStringCountry.com.